and a jazz-orientated dance school, whereas I was more trying to represent what we call the New York style of the contemporary Latin dance, which is, like I said, it has nothing to really do with ballet or any other form of classical dance. It's just strictly a street dance, so to speak, and from there I wanted to develop into something more professionally. So like I said, it was just an innovative idea of my own that I
see.
Put together sort of for this dance.
Latin dance in general, from what I've seen of it, seems to be an extremely vibrant, exhilarating dance form. I mean, there are many dance forms, but Latin dance really is outstanding as far as its generation of energy. Why do you think this is? Is it from the country it comes from, or the drum beats, or heavy percussions? Why do you think it is as a Latin dancer?
Well, I would say, in my opinion, Marion, our dance is a very cultural dance. It's the kind of dance that was not sort of like an invention of someone just putting technique and steps together. It's the kind of dance that we grew up with in our homes, and I'm speaking of in our homes from the roots of, let's say, Africa and Puerto Rico, where I'm sure the children in these countries, they don't know what it is to study a dance. They just brought up dancing in the home atmosphere. You know, they have the drums in Africa, and I'm sure that the children are dancing to what they call the cultural dances. And in Puerto Rico, you know, in what we call the Jibaro scenery, where we have the children just dancing as a cultural thing, you know. So we feel the music, it's part of our upbringing, and that's what makes the music, I guess, so intense and so exhilarating, so emotional, because it's something that's felt, it's from the heart, and it's not such a technical, or shall we say, a very structured type of dance.
Right. Well, you're getting involved. Currently, you're getting involved in Afro dance as well. How does that differ from Latin dance? I mean, from what you're saying, there seems to be a compatibility and a kind of, you know, accentuation from Afro to Latin and vice versa.
As a matter of fact, there's a very strong bond. There's a very strong tie there from the African. We consider here in what we call the New York style Latin dance, we consider Africa and Afro-Cuban rhythms the root of our music and our dance here in New York. And I would say definitely there is a strong tie there. This is why I'm drawn, and the African dance appeals to me.
There's an Afro influence then in the Latin dance.
Very much so.
And Afro music does have a strong percussion sound, doesn't it, with the drum beats and that type of thing?
Yes.
And that seems to be a very natural dance pattern. I mean, that's you know, where it all started. I would say
that Latin music, in the sense of what we're hearing today, what we call the charanga and typical sounds, I would say that it's basically a design on top of what we call the root of African music, which is the drums. There's, basically, that's what African dancing requires. When you go to study African dancing, all you have is, let's say, 5 or 6 drummers beating out on the drums to rhythms. And then I would say on top of that we put music. We add melody. We add in the trumpets and the other instruments. So you would say, I would say that the undertone of all our dance and everything is very much an African root type of dance. But like I said, in my own opinion, what I'm doing is what I would say an innovative form, from not just pure African or jazz. It's just a combination of different styles of different forms of dance. And I even have a name for my style, which I call avant-garde Latin dance, meaning simply that it's a free-form innovation. Okay? It's not restricted to any particular form. It doesn't mean that it's African or it's modern or it's jazz or ballet. It's just a free-form idea, whether I study African and it influences on what I'm doing in Latin dance, or whether I'm into jazz or just typical Latin dancing done in the clubs. See, so it's a strong combination.
Eddie, let me ask you, how does Latin dance stand on a theatrical basis? Is it really an accepted form theatrically? And has it been popularized on a commercial, wide-scale basis?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, Marion, because I feel strongly that one of the things that we're lacking in our dance is the development commercially, theatrically, and we need more involvement, I'd say. That's why I'm trying to influence the youngsters today. I'm also involved in a program right now that means teaching the youth and orientating them to our dance and to our roots as far as the dance, with the direction of trying to one day do something theatrical. For example, to do something in a production on the scale of Alvin Ailey or Harlem Theater of Dance, take it to off-Broadway or Broadway musicals. Yeah, I would like to see that happen in New York one day.
You really do want to promote Latin dance then, more than it has been so far.
Very much so, yes. Like I said, I feel there's a lack of development in New York. And
what would you zero in on specifically attributing that lack of development? Has it been a lack of commitment in the Latin community as far as promoting and developing their own dance form? Or what exactly, if you were to pinpoint what one reason, would you attribute the lack of development of Latin dance in America to?
I would have to say that I think our dance is such a fun dance, and it's the kind of dance that we normally wouldn't direct. I would think it's a lack of a vision of someone seeing it done more professionally, because like I was saying before, our dance is done in clubs, and we do it more as a street thing, where we do it just for fun and enjoyment. And I think what needs to be done from there is for someone to see it done more on a broad scale, on a productive scale of professionalism.
Right.
So, see, I'd
you
like
need
to
to structure and focus
Exactly.
a bit more in order to promote it and
Right.
market it. And how would you say Latin dance is accepted socially for the non-Latin community? I mean, it seems to be a very natural dance form for Latinos, especially young Latinos, but how would it be socially for the non-Latin community? Would they take to it, do you think, on a large scale socially?
I'll tell you, Marion, I think I'm very excited over the fact that I teach the dance, and I've been in this atmosphere of dancing for quite a few years. And it's funny to say that the majority of the people that I know involved, even doing it, studying it or developing it or doing anything professional, they're non-Latins.
Is that so?
Yes, and I think there's a very strong interest. Somehow the people of all nationalities are drawn to this dance and to this music, and it has no barrier as far as, nationality. And this is what excites me about the dance. Anyone can join in from any culture, and like I said, it's something where it's appealing to all
It has a type of universal appeal,
Yes,
then. It's
yes.
not restricted just to the Latinos and one sector of the community.
Exactly.
Which is good. Zeroing in for one moment, I have seen you dance, and it's fabulous. I'd like to
Thank
know, you're sort of a purist in the Palladium type dancing, sort of open-ended type of positioning. How did you come to really specialize in that?
Well, I have to say that the Palladium was, I would say, the home of what we considered Latin dance here in New York. That's where people say it all started many years ago. I was too young at the time to participate in the Palladium, what they call the Palladium era. But that was typically the dance, the performances were typically done in that fashion, where it would be an open routine, the guy and the girl, or two guys, or a guy and two girls, and it would always, most of the time, it would be an open position routine.
Mm-hmm.
And
was there any reason for that, or is it just how it developed stylistically?
I think basically it was just a matter of having the freedom for individuals to express what they felt.
So you needed room and space.
Yes, and also the freedom of being individual, where the girl would do her solo and the guy would do his solo, and it would show there the individuality of the expression of the dance.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not necessarily saying that that's the style of the dance per se. It can be done closed. There's a lot of beautiful things you can do, just like we see in the hustle today with the lifts and all the adagio. There's no restriction to the dance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I particularly like to choreograph a lot of my work in that style, and I was influenced by a lot of people from the Palladium era, the dancers, and I would say basically it's just right now it's just an open field with what you can do with the dance.
How you really do a type of mambo, the Palladium type dancing is mambo primarily,
Mambo, yes.
isn't it? How does that stand with salsa, which seems to be a very popularized and a well-promoted Latin dance form? How would you compare it?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because that's a very controversial thing right now with this theme of salsa. As far as what I understand of what salsa means, salsa is just basically a title that we give to our music, our dance. It's not any one particular, it has nothing to do with a form, because salsa, the words just simply means sauce. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this was, I think, someone's idea to commercialize the whole gamut of what the music and the dance are about. But the mambo in itself is what they call a dance, just like a tango or waltz, and a cha-cha. These are forms of dance. But salsa is basically just a theme, a category for all music, and it has to do with Latin and the dance also.
I see. Eddie, we're going to break for one moment here, and we're going to make a far transition to a very